Hi, I'm Steph Quantrill from Q Marketing.
And I'm Ben Van Rooy from Human Digital, and this is Canned, the marketing podcast.
In this episode, we're diving into packaging. We'll explore how packaging shapes consumer psychology, wins the battle for shelf space, and how it does the heavy lifting for brands.
From Louis Vuitton to Apple, we'll cover everything marketers need to know about packaging, so tune in. Happy Friday, Steph.
Happy Friday, Ben. How are you today?
Good. We made it. We made it to Friday.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's been a bit up and down this week, but it definitely feels like summer.
I was thinking about this because I started the week sunbathing and having a barbecue, and now I literally have not left the house today because it's pouring with rain. So I can bring back Monday. It was great. Daylight savings.
And everything is looking so green. I forget how lush this amazing country is, but just walking down and everything's like super green.
Yeah.
I'm loving summer. Well,
Bring it on.
Spring, summer.
So, how's your week been? Tell us about what you've been up to for the week.
Yeah, this week has been good. We're getting ready for South by Southwest. So finalizing the talk that we're doing. And we've got a couple of exciting guests that we'll announce on our next podcast. But the topic, we have decided on the topic, which is the future of marketing is not AI. So
Yeah.
AI seems to be everywhere, and a lot of people think it is the silver bullet. It's not. Our talk at South by Southwest will be diving into that. We're preparing for the brand summit next week, and you and I went on a tour of Mayo with Unilever Pro, and Steph brought her own high-vis vest.
Now, when you say mayo, I think you might want to give some context. We didn't go for a tour in a big jar of mayonnaise. I think you might want to just explain that a little bit more.
Yes, so Mayo Hardware is the distributor for Unilever professional products across Australia and New Zealand. And yeah, we went in, we caught up with a couple of the team there and had a look at the warehouse. And
Yeah, it was awesome.
we were heading in, and Steph produced her own high-vis. I was very impressed.
Yeah, I mean, you're just like I didn't have my safety boots with my pink laces in the car, Ben. But yes, I do. I'm a woman of many different looks.
I love it. I love a safety boot as well. And we were talking about safety boots. The RM Williams I wear are not safety boots whatsoever. In fact, they slip and slide everywhere I go.
You know, that Ponsonby, you're not made for a safety boot. Your Ponsonby lifestyle.
And I shaved the beard, but I've kept the moustache. I'm practicing for Movember. Yeah, mixed reviews, but sporting the moustache at the moment.
Yeah, actually, what I will say is I had the pleasure of meeting Ben's brother this week, and they look exactly the same. It's very off-putting.
He is very similar, and we choose, our glasses are kind of similar, our haircuts are a bit similar.
And he's got facial hair. Right, so in terms of what have I been up to this week? I finally found a new office, which I'm really excited about. So
congratulations.
Yes, as much as I wanted to spend my life swanning around Ponsonby, I've decided to swan around Parnell, and I am going to be parking myself up in the offices of a research agency, which I think will be really cool, actually. I'm excited about that. So new office for Steph next week, which probably means new business cards. For me, it's been a move into the SaaS world. So I'm working with a startup business down in Christchurch at the moment who's developing a bit of a SaaS platform. So that's super exciting. And then I've just picked up another client who's also based in Christchurch, but I'll be fractionally looking after a team in Melbourne. So there's a lot of action happening in Christchurch at the moment, which is super interesting to me. I feel like there's a lot of activity. In fact, that was kind of a topic that weirdly came up when we were at the Mayo visit too, right? About how well some of the stores down there are doing. So maybe it's a good little kind of boost for the economy down in Christchurch.
For sure. And Christchurch is the new, I want to say, creative heart of New Zealand. It is where a lot of new families are buying homes. The housing market there, I would say, is more affordable than Auckland.
Yeah.
You've got good jobs. It's a great lifestyle, a really beautiful city, and so close to all of the great stuff that the South Island has, like Queenstown and skiing and the vineyards. So,
yeah, exactly.
It's a really, really cool place.
And I've got a heartwarming tale to tell you. So I did a bit of retail therapy earlier in the week, and if anyone's familiar with Catherine Wilson, the shoe designer, so she had a sale, and I did a bit of late night shopping and bought 3 pairs of shoes, which I was super excited about. They arrived on Monday. I tried one of the pairs on; they were too big for me. So it was an online order, it was a sale, and so I was expecting them to say sorry, no returns. The lovely team there were like, look, just send them back to our Herne Bay office and we'll exchange them for you. I decided to drop them in. So I popped into the Herne Bay office and Catherine herself was there. So I got a bit starstruck. I was, oh, Catherine, hi. And so she fitted me. I had to go 2 sizes down. She fitted me into a lovely pair of shoes. We was all happy days. It was thank you so much. It was great. Got home, was in the kitchen. I was swanning around. I said, look at my new shoes. And I was really showing them off and the strap broke. And so then I had to go back. I had to go back to the Herne Bay office. So I've literally just been wandering around. But what I will say is such great service. I just was so impressed. Just they couldn't have been more helpful. And if we want to think about a packaging experience, I've got now 3 beautiful Catherine Wilson boxes. They have got little shoe covers. And so, yeah, the whole thing was delightful from start to finish. So this is an unpaid plug for Catherine Wilson and her amazing service.
Check them out in Herne Bay.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing is, funnily enough, I'm working on a new packaging project for Hell Pizza.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so that's super exciting and I can't give too much away, but I think one of the things I will say is part of the brief is packaging as an experience. So that's probably a really nice way of leading into our topic today, Ben. Do you want to give us an overview?
Yes, so today's topic is packaging, leading on from our print episode last week. Before we dive into that, let's talk quickly about what's happening in the news.
Yes.
So in the news, we've got 3 things. We've got Instagram, which is cracking down on Aussie teens with adult accounts. So yeah, this is the ongoing saga of Meta and a lot of legislation going in Australia, New Zealand and globally to essentially protect kids from the harms of social media. This is happening. Meta is rolling out their AI-powered safety tools in Australia to protect under 18s who've registered as adults on Instagram.
So they're getting kicked off, right? Because I think I read about this, and it's almost like, aren't they doing things like facial, like you've got to show how old you are and like take a photo to prove, like, you know, to actually prove that if you are 18, that you can actually have an over 18 account. Is that right?
I'm not sure on the technicalities, but the affected accounts are being shifted to what they're calling teen account settings.
Yeah.
And what this does is it restricts live streaming, direct messages, and image filters. And there's new parental prompts being introduced. So this move is coming in as Australia considers laws banning social media use for under 16. So yeah, Meta is playing a bit of catch up.
Actually, as a side note and a build on that, one of the things I learned this week is that ChatGPT has now got an extension and an ability to add your teens and your kids onto it with parental controls. For me, it was a question I'd asked a couple of weeks ago, and I thought that was really helpful because I don't want to set my children free on ChatGPT. So you can't see their chats, but you can control and put parental controls around it. So I thought that was quite cool.
That's good. And it's good that ChatGPT and other AI companies are thinking ahead with that. I know there's already been a few stories about some of the harm that AI assistants and chatbots are doing. Maybe an episode in the future.
Actually, I learned about AI companions in the weekend. And I don't know, do you ever get served an AI companion?
I haven't been served an AI companion, but I've heard a lot about them.
So my partner gets served them, evidently. That was a fun conversation. And then I thought I should probably check with my 16-year-old son and see if he was in fact getting served AI companions. He assures me that he's not. But it does go to show it's a bit of, like you say, it's the Wild West out there. God knows what's happening.
It is the Wild West. And speaking of the Wild West, Meta is launching ad-free Facebook and Instagram in the UK. So this is a new strategy for Meta. So Meta, their business model up until now has been their users are the product, essentially serving them ads. But there is a ad-free version in the UK of Facebook and Instagram, currently charging almost £3 a month, $2.99 on the web and $3.99 on mobile. And the move is following regulatory pressure over targeted advertising, and it gives people the choice between free ad-supported or paid ad-free experiences. The UK's Information Commissioner's Office is obviously welcoming the change, saying it aligns with data privacy rules, and Meta hasn't confirmed if the service will extend to Australia or New Zealand yet, but really interesting to see the movement towards social media not being about ads, which is Interesting development.
I mean, the natural question from that is what will be left on Facebook if you don't have ads? Because it's moved so far away from being anyone that you actually know.
Well, it will essentially go back to what Facebook was,
Yeah.
which was, posts of people you barely know. Judith from high school or,
Yeah.
Stephen with his 3 kids from primary school,
Yeah, exactly.
And finally, it's Paris Fashion Week. I was watching a few of the shows. So they're currently showing women's wear spring summer 2026. And there was a show that was the Saint Laurent show, which they had underneath the Eiffel Tower, which was super cute. And it was definitely giving me Emily in Paris vibes as I was watching it. So yeah, definitely very fond place in my heart, Paris and all of France and Cannes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's making me excited to keep doing my Duolingo French training.
Okay, great. My daughter keeps asking me to do Spanish, so there we go.
I was doing Spanish, and I thought, Spanish is I would say maybe an easier language to learn than French, but for some reason I'm feeling the French more.
When I drink a lot of rosé, I can speak French.
That's a load of bullshit. You think you can speak better, but I have heard, that the more alcohol you drink, the better. The more relaxed you are, the more you can recall things. But yeah, when I drink champagne, yeah, my French gets much better.
Well, I studied French and Japanese. And so you should see me in a Japanese restaurant after some sake.
Do you speak Japanese or French?
Both. I can speak both badly. Every week we learn something new. Okay, so back to actual packaging. Let's dive into it, Ben.
Let's do it. So packaging, leading on from last week in print, I thought we could start the episode maybe by a little show and tell about some of our favorite packaging. Have you brought anything along, Steph?
Well, I'm going to bring my packaging out later as an illustrative example of another point. So I haven't got as much show and tell as you, but I think there was a stage that I went through where I had the shopping bags of the brands that I really, really loved. And for years, I've threatened to turn that into wall art, to frame it. I think some of those bags are 15 years old, like the actual shopping bags. One of them is a Deadly Ponies. Now, you think about the experience, and I think some of the packaging examples that we're going to talk about, they just lean really nicely into premium brands because that's where you've got that nice tactile experience. So Deadly Ponies, it's got very distinctive purple colouring, it's got gold foiling, and it's got a beautiful dust bag that it comes in, and the packaging and all the ribbons and things. So that would be one of my favourite packaging brands. And then I think we also referenced Tiffany last week, didn't we? And the distinctiveness of the box. And my Tiffany is from 2003. So, and I've still got that packaging. So there you go.
You didn't bring it along? You didn't bring along your Tiffany box to show and tell?
I mean, it's in the bedroom, but But let's have a look at yours, shall we?
Okay. So I'm going to stay in the theme of fragrance, which is one of my favorite themes. So I've got 2 to show you. So the first is a box by the Italian fragrance designer called Otto Parisi. So this is the box here. What I really like about this box is it is made from one piece of cardboard.
Wow.
So when you open it like this, it folds out and you've got this little container in the middle that holds the fragrance, but it's all, one piece of folded card, which I really like.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then inside, this is the bottle of the fragrance. The bottle is glass, and you can see that he's used this kind of leather sleeve that sits on top, which is quite good. And then you've got this really rustic lid that sits on the top as well. So very, very cool, and a really beautiful fragrance.
I think the thing here, and perfume is one of the examples I wanted to really speak about. Arguably, some of that packaging is more expensive than the liquid inside.
100%, and that is the essence of fragrance and marketing. The raw materials, the liquid inside. I don't know the stat. I should recall it, but less than maybe 10% of the total price of that product is the liquid inside.
And we saw this when we went to Grass. And we went through those perfumeries. Actually, even back then, do you remember they had all the bespoke and the ceramic and the hand-painted vaporizers? So even though the packaging itself wasn't just like a distinctive brand asset it wasn't branded, but the way in which perfume has been displayed has always been part of that experience. It's been a really tactile experience. We saw that right back into the, hundreds of years ago when they were developing perfume bottles.
Indeed, indeed. And that is part of the experience of the perfume as well as the packaging, the look, and how it sprays. And so the other example, I wanted to give a New Zealand example. So the example is from right here in Ponsonby. It's called Curio Noir.
Mm.
And if you haven't been to this store, it is amazing and it is such a beautiful experience. This box is really amazing. And inside you have this padded chamber,
Wow.
which is also purple and again, really beautifully presented. And then this is the candle that came with it. So it sits really snugly, like the fit is so perfect right
Wow.
there in the box. So yeah, a great example of premium New Zealand packaging.
Now, this is interesting. Tell me about this candle. How long have you had the candle and have you been burning it?
Yes, I have been burning the candle. I think I've had the candle for just over a year, and it definitely comes out on special occasions. But that being said, I am a candle collector and I do have many, many candles, and then this is just one.
It's just like an insight into your life. So my point there really is when packaging is such an expensive part of the entire product, like it literally could be 50% of the actual product itself. It's really interesting to me that you've kept the packaging for the candle. That wouldn't be something that probably a lot of people would do, but I imagine it was an expensive candle.
It was an expensive candle, and I don't keep the packaging for all of the candles I buy. A lot of them I get rid of.
Yeah.
But this one was particularly special. For anyone that's interested, the fragrance of this candle is called Opia, and it has notes of rhubarb, oud, cedarwood, sandalwood, and labium.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's very
I
good.
would really like that. And I think you've got one more, a classic.
I just have one more. Yes, when I think you've made it in packaging, when packaging itself becomes the product, and there is one brand, I think all of the super luxe brands are in this category, but Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what products came in. I think it might have been a belt and some sunglasses, but how beautiful are these packages?
So I'm going to describe for most of the people who don't watch this. Ben has got his orange Louis Vuitton box and he's clearly retied the ribbon and it looks as if...
No, the ribbon didn't get retied. I just kind of shifted it out of the way to open it and then kind of shifted it back on.
And I'm assuming that Ben is using this as art in his house.
Yeah, they are sitting on a shelf. Like, I don't know how to tie a ribbon like that, Steph. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just shifted it to open the box.
It's what they teach you at Louis Vuitton packaging school.
It is. Yeah, amazing. And I think, if I think about where these are coming from, so obviously French for Louis Vuitton and the fragrance is Italian. So the Italians and the French know how to do their packaging so well.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they've been doing it for centuries.
Yeah. And I think, look, one of the reasons we thought this was such an interesting topic to cover off is packaging is such a strong signal to the experience of the brand that you're going to have. And that's whether you can actually touch it before you buy it or visually the way that you look at it. So one of the, there's so much to look at in that in terms of you've got category codes. So if you're in a category that has a particular color that is going, like one of the examples I can give right now is alcohol RTDs, and you think about PALs and you think about how they set that category code as being pastel. And automatically, so the format was really important. So they moved into a 10-pack in cans, which was so at the time so different to everything being in bottles. And then what you've seen is that as that category's grown, pastels, that the color of pastels now delineates a particular category. So if you were looking for a beer, I can almost guarantee to you wouldn't be seeing pastels. It'd be a completely different color code.
And PALs is such a great example because people now order them as the pink one or the purple one or the yellow one. And again, you've made it when people are talking about your packaging when they order the product. Amazing.
Yeah. And that's actually quite an unusual case in and of itself. And so I think the other thing is I just really want to dive into how important packaging is to the psychology of the buying experience. So we were just talking about packaging examples. And so one of the brands that I've been working on in my time, I've done a lot of packaging refreshes and lots of rebranding and changing the look and feel of packaging. So, and labeling. And in this particular category that I was working in, it was dressings and sauces. You can I don't know if you've ever hosted a dinner party, for example. You can go to someone's house and they can whip out the value mayonnaise and the, maybe the tomato sauce and the tomato. But if you think about how you would position yourself as a certain kind of target customer, if you're somebody who cares about food, often the kind of thing that you would put on the table says a lot about you. So if you're hosting and having a dinner party. So I was working on a brand, and the brand was called Telegraph Hill. And the packaging, and I'm going to show it, but in fact, we can maybe keep it as a screenshot for later. But that was what I was dealing with. And it was so ugly. It was red and lime green. The packaging was done probably 20 years ago.
I've seen worse, Steph. It's not that bad. I've definitely seen worse.
Yeah. So there were lots of elements on this particular packaging, and it's got the fern mark on it, and it had some people riding bikes. Anyway, I got given that as a project and was like, right, can you please redo it? And sometimes you get given projects and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to make that cool again. So the brief, and then this is what we ended up with. And it's quite hard to see, but the whole logo got redone, and there's gold foiling on here. And there's a design element to that packaging that is showing you what you do with this product. So this is I'm actually holding up a pineapple chili and kawa dressing. And that iconography there is designed to show how you would use it. And the whole point is that you could quite comfortably have someone over and you could pop that on the table, and that is saying to you, I'm somebody that cares about quality ingredients. I'm somebody that cares about food. And that is another reason why some of those, you think about other categories like flour and sugar, those real basic essentials, it doesn't really matter that's why home brands have done so well. It doesn't matter.
But I would say there will still be home brands in that category.
Yeah, there will. Yeah, exactly. But so if we think about positioning and so the labeling and the packaging on this product had to reflect the brand positioning. Yeah.
And talking about those premium packaging, I think another great example is Aesop, and how Aesop is now pretty much every open home you go to. If it's a certain type of home, there will be Aesop products. And I also know people that decant their home brand soaps into an Aesop bottle.
So that is, and that actually is the definition of a great packaging. So if you've actually got a product, I mean, it's a real shame for the poor Aesop people who are not getting the actual product in there. I'm really interested if that's happened to you. Have you sort of, called them out on it?
No, I mean, I am guilty of decanting some things during my life, probably more when I was a student. But yeah, I do like packaging, and, I love a brand. Yeah.
And look, let's take a trip. Let's take a trip into a supermarket, because I feel like that's where we're going to get the best examples of what packaging is doing, right? At any given moment in a supermarket, you've probably got like the premise of shopping is it's a mostly automated event. Now, if we're thinking about the importance of packaging, I'd say it's really important to understand how whether people who buy your particular product, is it an unplanned purchase? Is it like brand agnostic? So I'm going in to get flour, probably brand agnostic. I'm going to buy peanut butter. I would suggest that peanut butter is something that people are quite brand loyal to. You don't sort of want to get the wrong, I imagine, in most instances, you don't want to get the wrong peanut butter. So what you've got on shelf is you want to make sure that if your category is unplanned, well, packaging then offers you an opportunity to convert someone at the point of purchase, right?
I would say even with flour, brand matters, and maybe it doesn't matter as much, but I think the Edmonds brand is a great example of how commodity products are branded and people are brand loyal. And I think one of the things that people are most brand loyal to is their brand of coffee and their coffee bean.
Yep.
And we've had this discussion a few times, Steph. I mean, coffee is one of the old-timey commodities along with sugar and flour.
Yeah.
And it is a massive brand play. In fact, I would say it is mostly brand.
Well, you can give the Havana example, because the packaging on Havana, in fact, coffee brands do it incredibly well. They all look quite distinctive. They don't all look the same as each other.
They don't, and they are distinctive. And Havana has done a great job again with some pastel type coloring. Their website and their packaging is all very distinctive. And I think that's where brand really comes together, is where you've got a brand that has packaging as a coherent part of their brand, that you see a product and it references all of their material, their campaigns, their website, their ads, their in-aisle experience, their event experience. That's what amazing branding is all about.
Yeah. And so that's the other thing to think about. So your packaging, and this has been so true in everything that I've ever done, given that I've worked a lot on supermarket brands, your packaging actually has to reflect who you are in other parts of the world. So if you're doing an ad campaign and your packaging looks really different to the way that everyone else experiences your brand in other ways, then you're having a really disconnected experience. And so it's going to make it really hard for people to come into a store and to realize that that's your product and find you. Because at the end of the day, marketing is not just advertising. It's not just social media ads. It actually is packaging, because that is the thing that that is the thing that makes you distinctive and makes you look like who you are in store.
And then there's also the experience that packaging has, which is unboxing. And I think unboxing has been, with the rise of social media, a whole thing. And I think maybe unboxing isn't as popular as it used to be, but it used to be huge. And I think, Apple being a great example of the whole unboxing experience, with pulling the tabs and, the surprise of getting a new product. I did get the new iPhone, and now it's pretty much just another phone. The unboxing is great, but there isn't really any new features, or, the camera's a bit better and the screen's a bit better, and, there's a button on the side. But, in terms of unboxing, it's not really a thing anymore.
As a side note, I think because you and I both got phones recently, I'm a bit disappointed it doesn't look any different, because I'm like, I spend a lot of money. I'd like it to look different. Thanks very much.
I mean, there is differences with the new one. I mean, you've got this new kind of poppy outy, I don't know what the name is, but where the cameras are, they've made that a bit fatter, and then they've got this panel on the back as well. This is the clear case. But yeah, there are some key differences, and the Apple users do notice it. And they're like, oh yeah, that's a new iPhone. So, the people that know Apple do, but it is subtle. The changes are very small.
Yeah. So going back to that example, we've obviously talked about luxury goods and how packaging is such a big part of that experience. The other thing, if you go right down the other end of the spectrum, and we've talked a bit about flour, it's also really important that if your product is a value brand, or it is cheaper than everything else, the quickest way a customer can tell that it's cheap is by the packaging.
Yeah,
right?
potentially. Yeah.
It's a cue. It's a cue to a customer to indicate whether you are entry-level budget. So if you're plain packaging, single color, not a lot of artwork direction on your packaging, that's going to tell me that this is great. I'm looking for a cheap brand of pasta. I'm looking for some cheap sugar. I want the cheapest one. I'm going to go for something that looks really, really simple. I think usually that's an indication in store.
Yeah, interestingly though, if you think about the premium brands, they are also leaning hard into the simple. So, if you think about the premium packaging today, it is typically single color for the packaging, single color font, much more refined. So I feel like premium is also simplifying as well. And the example that you just showed up, Steph, with the two bottles, the refined version that you have is a more simpler design with, a much more refined. So I think, the in the middle part, I think, is where maybe some of the clutter is. But a lot of the brands that are doing this rebrand, they're all turning into a bit of a samey, beigey, pastel blur. If you think of a new brand, it's a beige or a pastel container with some sans serif font, and it is very samey. It is still premium, but there's now a movement that is more into those humanist type brands, where things are not as refined. They're still refined, but they're not as maybe simple as some of the recent iterations.
Yeah, and I think what packaging does is it contains a whole lot of elements. So so if we kind of break that down, there's the design element of packaging. So that's a cue in and of itself. So that's what you're talking about, the colors, the fonts, things like embossing, debossing, foiling, or the lack thereof. Is it a busy design? Is it a simple design? So you've got the art working side of it. And then you've got a whole bunch of options around stock weights. So that comes down to the size of your label, how much of the product is labeled. Are you printing on glass? So in the Aesop example, I'm guessing, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, ASOP will be printed on the glass. It won't be a label that's stuck on.
Mm.
So that denotes quality, for example. And then you have to, as an example, when we did this packaging, there's a cutout. That's a special design cutout to capture the H in the Telegraph Hill. Now that's a design element to indicate quality in theory. And yes, all things like you say, you've got your premium brand that you showed before is one single piece of card. The engineering that's gone into that.
And I think that's really what it signifies to the person that cares about that matters. It shows that a lot of attention has gone into the creation of that packaging. And that, that signals that the product inside, a lot of time and care has probably gone into that product as well, hopefully.
Yeah, 100%. So the other thing that a packaging can do an amazing job of is that your packaging itself can become your distinctive asset.
That's definitely the case with Louis Vuitton. I mean, packaging is very much what they're about.
So let's talk about shapes. So you've got Toblerone.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you know that you've nailed it with your packaging design is when you can literally put a shape up and somebody will go, that's Toblerone. Coca-Cola is another really classic example.
Exactly. And again, that's hard to copy. And it also allows you to put a trademark on it as well. So obviously I'm not sure if the shape is trademark, but definitely the Coca-Cola bottle shape is.
Yeah. What about when you're a direct to consumer, like if you're an e-com brand? So we've talked a little bit about what it's like to be in a supermarket, and supermarkets are a really tough environment. You get given a certain amount of facings in the shelf. You've got seconds to get someone's attention. What about if you're starting an e-com brand? How important is your packaging in that instance? Less so, more so?
I think it's still really important. It is about how it photographs. I mean, if you're doing e-com, it is the whole e-com experience. And this is the website, how the website loads, how the product pages are arranged, the photography that you have of that product. Obviously you can't show how heavy the package feels or how premium it is. But there are some really cool things that marketers can do, like the type experiences where if you click on the product, you can kind of spin it and check it out. I'm looking at buying a couch at the moment, and there is some really cool technology. I'm looking at King Furniture, and you can use AR and put the couch in the room and kind of like move it around, and it's all a really native experience on the phone. And so, yeah, there's some really cool stuff you can do with e-com. I would say packaging is just as important, and probably the packaging of the outer, but then also the inner as well. Definitely important.
As part of the Business Chamber Awards that I was doing recently, I went and visited a finalist, and they make candles. And actually, part of the it was a marketing entry, and one of the things that she had called out that made a massive difference to their brand, they were getting a lot of returns. So they had candle boxes. And they were just done a really classic, like literally a box that you just a classic box and you open it. They changed that to be a sleeve and a much heavier card, and they were trying to get that box made locally. And the printers that they were dealing with, it's going to cost you, 3 times more to make this particular type of box. So unfortunately, she did have to go offshore, and she went to China to get this box. But she said what that meant was that they had fewer product returns, and it elevated the brand to the point where, people were much happier with the experience because it was a $60 candle that people were buying.
How did the package reduce the number of returns? Can you explain?
So packaging was getting damaged when they were sending it because it wasn't strong enough.
I see. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And in stores. And so then the other thing that they've done with packaging can also be a really great experience for a customer. So there's things like handwritten notes. Some places that you shop with will literally go, and they'll throw in a chocolate or a fruit burst or something. And so what she also does with these candles is she puts in a refer a friend discount voucher. So
Brilliant.
There's all sorts of things that you can do to kind of really, all those touch points with your customers. It's not just you've marketed a thing, you've spent some money on advertising. It's not just chuck it in something and let it go. I think that experience is super important.
Do you want to get phygital, Steph?
I'll put a QR code on it.
Yes. So, this is where packaging can get phygital. where we can add more information. So, there is a big trend to minimize packaging, taking stuff out of the box or not having so much print on the side of the box. There's a lot of regulation that dictates what has to be on and in the box.
Yeah.
But if you're looking to minimize or add more value to the customer, a QR code is a great way to create that digital experience that we're all looking for.
Another thing that's really important when you're thinking about what your brand is going to look like if you are putting it into a store is there more than one version of it? So I'll give the peanut butter example, but there's lots of others. If you have more than one product, but you've got like a smoother, crunchy, whatever, you need to figure out what your design hierarchy is in the packaging design.
What is a design hierarchy, Steph?
Okay.
Break it down for us.
Because a design hierarchy is you've got your product brand, but then underneath that, if it's peanut butter, you might have a no added salt. By the way, we've not practiced this, just making it up as we go. You've got a no added salt, you've got a crunchy, you've got a smooth, you've got an in between. And so people need to be really, really quickly be able to go to a shelf and they've got, cool, I want Pix peanut butter. I know that I want Pix. Where the hell is the crunchy? So you've got to make sure that you've thought about, again, let's come back to the fact that you've got seconds to get people's attention. You're in a supermarket, you're getting all the things. So it's got to do, there's so much that goes into it. There's so much heavy lifting and thinking that needs to be done. And that's where research groups sometimes don't give you the best results because they're not replicating the shopping experience. You and I could sit here and go, that's great, looks lovely.
And talking about the shopping experience, one of my things is humans are inherently lazy. And if you spend all of this money on a big packaging redesign and you change the look, and the look might be amazing, but you could alienate your existing customers because they literally cannot see your new product. It might be right there in front of them. Do you have any examples of where that's happened, Steph?
Well, that Telegraph Hill example was exactly that because, again, I'm going to just, it's red and lime green. So that's what people were dealing with. I was allergic to the lime green, but you had
quite like the lime green. It looks like Christmas, Steph. That's a Christmas bottle.
So the logo, again, the logo is completely different. The logo is completely changed the logo. And this was the risk with the entire project was, what do we do for the people who are buying it already? So it had to still look like it was. So bottle shape was something that stayed the same. So that's the other thing you can have fun with is your the bottles and the things that you put things in. So that stayed the same to keep that consistency. And so that's where I think if you're a marketer, really understanding what your distinctive brand assets are and what are your colors, what are your fonts.
Agreed. And don't change them unless you really have to.
Yeah. Please don't change them. I agree. Yeah. What about sustainability and packaging?
Yes, sustainability. So I think sustainability is important. I think it's not as buzzy as it used to be, but I feel the best packaging is beautiful, is reusable, is sustainable. I mean, sustainable has a lot of different elements in it. So sustainable can talk about recycling. Is the package recycling?
Yeah.
Are the materials that you're putting into it coming from sustainable ethical sources, or is it reusable? So sustainability is really about, are you using the right type of materials? And can the life of your packaging live on like the Louis Vuitton boxes, or can it be easily broken down and recycled or turned into something else?
And and I've got a lot to say about this because I worked in the sustainability space and lots of things. So we don't have a standardized recycling approach in New Zealand, which is a little bit unfortunate, but a lot of people don't know. They don't. So there's a little bit of greenwashing that goes on where companies will put a recycling.
A little bit? I think a lot of greenwashing,
there
Steph.
is.
And I don't think people are doing it on purpose. They just don't realize that they're greenwashing.
No. And so toothpaste is a wonderful example. You cannot recycle. If you want to recycle a toothpaste tube, you have to cut that thing open and clean it out, and then it can be recycled. Who the hell's doing that? No one's cleaning out the toothpaste tube to be recycled.
There's also a lot of misconceptions. So, for example, everyone thinks that cardboard and paper, must be recyclable. But a lot of these cardboard and paper products are having a plastic layer added to them.
Yep.
A wax or sometimes it's an adhesive plastic. That is not recyclable.
No. And can I just say, for the record, your coffee cups are not, for anyone who wants to know if a coffee cup is recyclable, it's not.
No, there are some packaging that are actually recyclable or commercially compostable. We're not getting into that on this
No.
podcast, but yes, it's problematic.
Yeah.
I think is the answer.
It's problematic. And the other thing that's really tough, and because businesses at the end of the day exist to make money. So generally speaking, that's, if you're a business, by definition, you want to make money and margin. Now, as a personal value, I very much believe that we should be trying to be as sustainable as possible. However, if you're at the bottom end of the rung and you are making something very cheap, the chances of you to do that sustainably might be slightly limited. And I still think that's a challenge.
I would disagree. I think at the bottom of the chain, I think there is a real opportunity to strip back the packaging to be simple and recyclable. Like I don't see them as one or the other. It is having that view when you're looking at who's your target customer, what do they value, what do they want, and also what's good for the community and the environment. Just because something is cheap doesn't mean it's not sustainable. I think you can have both.
Yeah, ideally you should. I mean, that brings me to my next thing, which is the Labubu and the unboxing craze. The unfortunate side effect of that is there's nothing sustainable about a product that is unboxed.
Yeah, well, if we talk about Labubu itself, it is a real marker of modern day consumerism. This is a non-recyclable box. Inside is a non-recyclable bag with a plastic toy inside. And yeah, it is not recyclable. But a lot of people are keeping the boxes.
And for the record, Ben tried to find his box and couldn't. Whereas
no, I think my box is gone.
Yeah.
The box is gone.
One of the other things too, just as so we've talked a little bit about sustainability and packaging and how we should be trying, where possible, to kind of introduce those elements of recyclability. Another thing that often happens, and it's, I've had to do a lot of these projects, is what you call a cost out. And that is where there's a couple of ways to make money. We all know about shrinkflation, and we know, the number of toffee pops you get in a packet now is not the same as it would have been 10 years ago. But I've done exercises in the alcohol space where we've taken things off bottles of beer in this instance. We've made the labels smaller, ways that you can save money in your packaging but still try and keep your brand premium, instead of having a front and a back label and a neck label. So that was the thing that used to be in all beer bottles. What you might find if you go and have a look at some of your beer brands now is that you'll have a single label that goes all the way around. So if you're thinking about working in a manufacturing plant, it's a lot more efficient to put one label on a bottle, and you can save a lot of money if you're doing high volume. So another thing to look at is if you're looking to deliver money back to a business, if you're sitting in a marketing role and you want to add value, and we talked about this in a much earlier episode about, getting ahead of finance, sometimes reducing some of the elements on packaging is a way that you can do that.
Indeed. And then it can also be more sustainable. The less labels, the less stickers, the more potentially sustainable that package is.
Yep, exactly. And then, again, coming back to the idea that sometimes your packaging is your distinctive asset. So really thinking about that. It happens a lot in alcohol as well. So bespoke packaging in alcohol, as much as it is in perfumery, is a real indicator of quality. So if you've got a special shaped bottle, it's usually costs more money.
Indeed.
I think we've got all of our content from packaging. Is there anything?
I think we do.
Is there anything else, Ben?
I think packaging is such an important part of brands and products. And I think what we've unpacked on this episode is just how important they are, as a brand.
I think, we haven't even scratched the surface, I don't think, in this episode of all of the different ways that packaging can add value to your brand. But I think one of the things I would say and recommend is if you're starting a product from scratch, really think about what the bottle, what the shape, what is the label going to look like, and what message are you giving to your customer about your brand, because that is the piece that will keep doing the work. Like if you think about you walk into your bedroom or your bathroom and you look at all the products that are there, you open your pantry, you look at all of the products that are in there, and what do they say? Those are the things that live in your home, and they're the ones that will stimulate you to go and buy them again. How you're treating your brand in terms of how it looks and feels, is probably one of the more important P's in marketing, I would say.
Agreed. Packaging is one of your biggest brand assets and needs a lot of love and care and attention.
Yes. Fantastic.
So now we've covered off packaging. What are we going to be talking about next week, Steph?
Well, there's been some pretty cool stuff lately in the banking and finance industry. And although that's not my area of expertise, I think it'd be really fun to have a look at kind of some really interesting campaigns in that space.
Indeed, marketing for financial services and banking, it is one of those, let's say, commodity products similar to telcos. But yeah, some really cool campaigns being run. So next episode, we're going to be digging deep into the world of financial services.
Amazing. Well, have a great weekend, Ben. Thank you.
Have a great weekend, Steph. Thanks, everyone.